Welcome to the Neo News Today podcast. My name is Dean, and today we're going to be talking to Dider Collin De Casaubon, who is the CEO and founder of PikcioChain. Now, PikcioChain is a project that has been in the works since 2014, and its goal is to provide a secure and compliant platform for storing and authenticating personal data. With new regulations coming in like the GDPR in Europe and data exploitations such as the recent Facebook scandal, Pixio is waiting in the wings to step in and provide a solution. Dider is going to tell us all about what that looks like, but first here are some upcoming dates that you should be aware of. On March 31st, the winners of the first Neo development competition will be announced. The competition had over 400 projects register from over 40 countries, all competing for a share in a $490,000 prize pool, so we're definitely excited to see what applications come out of this event. On April 13th through April 15th, Neo and QRC are teaming up to hold a global hackathon in Tokyo. Developers can enter to win a share in 2,000 yen worth of Neo. Over the 2 days of competition, participants will design a blockchain project using the Neo platform. Neo and QRC will provide technical guidance throughout the event, with incubation support from QRC also on offer for the best teams. On April 14th, the Neo Amsterdam Summit will be held at the Delamar Theatre. Tickets have already gone on sale, and if you want to get in, you best get in fast, as the previous Amsterdam event sold 400 tickets in under 6 hours. Initial confirmed presentations will be from Neo, Ontology, Alchemint, Neo Global Capital, and VDT, with many more still to be announced. This will also be the first event on a second European tour, so keep an eye out for that too. All right, let's move on to the interview. On the line, I have Dider Collin De Casaubon, CEO and founder of PikcioChain. Dider, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
Excellent. I just landed to Amsterdam on my way to Paris, and enjoying the lounge here in Schiphol. So pretty good. Thank you.
So the bio on your website for you, it says, Dider juggled between working in the banking industry for over 15 years and being an entrepreneur in the software industry. Now, I have a feeling that this might be a little modest. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Thank you. Well, I have a few gray hairs, so indeed I spent 15 years overall in the banking industry, in the financial industry, I would say, both as a VC and then as a what they call commercial banker. That means underwriting large loans for real estate. And besides that, I've been an entrepreneur a few times after being a researcher a long time ago. So I created my first company, then the second one, then I got hired for a large corporation to create a sort of spin-off for them. And then I did that twice, came back to as an entrepreneur. So I kind of mix these experience mostly into software and mostly into how software can disrupt existing business for the best.
Okay, cool. Now, data, right? So PikcioChain, it's all about personal data. And traditionally, data is something that is incredibly sexy to people who know what to do with it and what it's worth. And it's been kind of uninteresting to everyone else. However, in this more connected world that we're living in, I think people are starting to clue on to that, maybe they're being taken advantage of, or maybe they're being exposed in ways they had no idea was even a risk. I mean, it feels like every week we have a new data breach or a new concern about some sort of app permissions or something like that in the news. So before we talk about the what and the how of Pixio, I think it's important we frame it up by talking about the why. So can you tell me about the pain points, the risks, maybe the inefficiencies that exist right now in the realm of personal data that require someone to come along and provide a solution?
Right. I'll do it twofold. The first one is just to react on actuality with the Facebook case that just blew up like a few days ago regarding the use, and that's only the tip of the iceberg, trust me, the use by corporation in partnership with Facebook of your personal data without one of your consent, or the first beginning of the consent. So that's something that probably even for the even in America will really shake people in terms of how much do you share, how much do you think you shared, how much eventually is shared about you, and you're not aware of it. So there was that since quite a while, and again I have gray hair, so the I've seen the growth of social network, but also largely internet, and definitely the web, and how much eventually data, your personal data, were more and more involved in a sort of a basic trade where, as we say, no, if you don't pay, that means you're the product, and which is fine. I mean, as long as it's a knowledge and it's kind of control and under control, that's fine. I think it's now completely out of control, and that's on the as an individual and as a citizen, I always felt kind of a growing unease with that and discomfort, and I think now it reached a high level. But the real pain point is actually, of course, individuals, but also companies. And I think that's where also they're reaching their breaking point regarding big data. It's because it's extremely costly to collect. It's under more and more regulation. And when I say costly to collect, it's costly to protect. And actually, when you collect literally a lot of garbage, because people adopt, like me, a lot of strategies to kind of hide themselves behind tons of pseudos, etc., or strategies to block ads, etc. So it's a sort of no dysfunctional system. At the beginning, okay, everybody thought, okay, that's a great one. But I think nowadays it's really completely dysfunctional, and that implies huge costs for business to, first of all, reestablish the sort of trust with their customer in a world that's more and more digital. So it's complicated, and how to make up some return on the investment of collection of these huge data. So it looks to me, and it appeared to me like 10 years ago already, that this was not obviously the way to have a sort of fair, balanced market. It's fine to have a marketplace where both agree about the deal, but here the deal is not something you really agree to. So that's literally what we're trying to do: address regulation. That means how do you, for companies to be compliant while doing it. Secondly, how to be secure, and third, how to qualify the data that you collect. That means how to either certify or authenticate or vet or whatever, but give some weight and value to the data you collect without incurring a lot of cost for that. That's what we're trying to address.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like most of the problems you're addressing is for the companies who are trying to manage and store and use that data. And just by extension, by doing that, you're also going to protect the individual who's supplying that data to those companies as well. That's
correct.
Fair?
Because it's a balance between a customer needs to trust the companies that where they're kind of ready to share data, but they want to trust these companies that they're going to take care of it properly in a fair way. First of all, that if they start to say, no, I don't want to share anymore, it's included in the deal. If they say, I'd like to see, what sort of benefit I really have and not see my data sold for political reasons, then it's fine. So it's just to reestablish that trust between individuals and companies, and you need both.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. All right, so now we know what the problems are. Let's talk about how Pixio solves them. So decentralization is a good way to prevent hacks that lead to massive data leaks. However, public blockchains being public, they're not exactly the best place to store sensitive personal data, right? So
correct.
Tell me about how Pixio approaches this and other issues to create a solution that addresses everything that you just spoke about.
Yeah, and to be pretty blunt about it, the initial design I came up with, again, a long time ago, was not blockchain based. And when blockchain arrived, like 8 years ago with Bitcoin, I read it, I thought it was fantastic, but as you just said, not addressing or proposing a good solution because that's a public blockchain. So And so we start with something still decentralized, but more on a peer-to-peer base. So we rebuild a peer-to-peer network. We build a lot of protocols for protection, encryption, etc. And it's only when Jorik, who's one of my co-founder, came in the picture like something like 4 years ago. He said, there may be something we could do with blockchain, which is a permission-based blockchain. I said, what's that? So he explained to me. I frankly was not too sure at the beginning, but he was stubborn and actually he's pretty brilliant. So he developed the thing. So basically, what we do is like to use the benefits of the blockchain, and I can come back on that. But in a defined environment, that means it's an ecosystem that's permission based, and so you can have the benefit of both worlds.
Yeah, sure. And this is a proprietary chain, right? This is, am I understanding correctly? It's not an open source thing. You guys you're a company, and because you are handling personal data, and you got to be careful about how this is shared and the regulations. That's why you've gone down that route. Is that correct?
You're correct, and also because our customers, being banks, etc., extremely sensitive to any kind of protection and regulation, we're not too keen to work with open source softwares. No, so that's definitely what we did. Now we're moving towards opening at least part of the code, so others can start to develop things as well on it, while still respecting the architecture and the guidelines. Yep.
Yeah, sure. And then just to clarify to our listeners, being Neo News today, people are going to wonder, the connection with Neo. It's the token that you're using, the Neo NEP5 token to power the PKC token for your blockchain. That's correct, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
That's absolutely correct. So we do these two separate chains. So Unchained or Ontology is two separate chain than us. A separate chain than us. But so we decide to use the new format for token. That's the first step. The second step that we're working on now is to see with Ontology how we can start interoperate with either other chains or other initiatives around digital identity, because we're really believing that it's going to be a whole complex world. It is a whole complex world. There's many smart initiatives around. And for whatever reason, customer can go one way or another, as long as they're not open chains, because that wouldn't solve the problem. But if they're not, then we can probably collaborate, and that's something we want to explore with Ontology, how the proposal of a sort of a meta pipeline can be used.
Yeah. When I read through your white paper, I did get the sense that your values are very much in line with some of the stuff Ontology is looking to do. So I can see that being a really fruitful relationship there. Now, when I was reading through some of the announcements of your partnerships, I got the sense that Pixcio's strategy is more to go after the big institutional clients with large customer bases and really try and solve those problems en masse that way, rather than trying to market to the individual, I guess. Is that fair? And can you tell us a little bit about those partnerships that you've already established?
Yes, that's very good point. As I said, it's a project that we started a long time ago, and even before developing anything, we surveyed a lot, and I surveyed a lot individuals and in different capacities in different countries, etc., to understand what's the friction, what's the traction, and basically how I could build a business behind that, not just to save the world, but also build a business. And the reactions were very, very positive in general. So that means people were more and more aware of not just the risk about their data, but also the value of their data. The real problem I faced at that time, and not that long ago, actually, the last surveys, were monetization. That means, how do we make a business out of it? And because nobody was ready to jump into a paying service, so ready to use the service of protection, etc., not to pay for it. So That's one of the things. The second thing we realized also was that it's not just individuals among on their own. It's a business. It's an economy. Personal data is a real economy. I mean, Google can talk to you about that for a long time,
Yep.
for a long period, and so it's definitely an economy. And where the real flow of transactions of money is between business. It's business producing or collecting or certifying the data, and then other using it. So at the same time, you cannot forget the individual, because either by regulation or by design, individuals are always or should be always involved in the sort of transaction or flow of their own data. So we realized that if we wanted to make a business, and if we wanted to really deliver on our promise to have a sort of fair marketplace, we had to go B to B to C, or C to B to B, or whatever. But it has to imply the three components: two business at least, and one individual. And that's where we start to really approach more. As opposed to other initiatives who are more what you call now sovereign identity based. That means it's individual, gathering the information and trying to get them certified and trying to use them. We respect that. That's one thing, but that's not the road we took. We really took B to B to C.
Okay,
Make sense?
Yep. So can you tell me a little bit about the partnerships that you've already established, and how you'll be working, what the scope of those partnerships are?
Yeah, so two things there. First of all, in terms of clients, we looked at all the different industries, and there are several we are using or dealing with a lot of customer data, and you will find banking, insurance, healthcare, etc. And in these industry, which ones had the more identified pain point? Because that's where, again, as a businessman, that's where you know that you will eventually being able to invoice. So banking and insurance were definitely the two companies, or not companies, trade in under a lot of regulation, and under a lot of constraints and pressure to do that. So that's why we approach bank and insurance first, and that's where we have our major base for the moment as clientele. One of them being the BNP Paribas, which is a large European banks with headquarters in France. So that's one thing, and we'll keep plugging around there. I think we have now a good chance to sign with most of the large banks in France, and pretty soon in Benelux and Germany. So we're growing there, and actually in the US as well. So we're growing there. Now, the second, and of course, when you do that, you work with them as well to define basically what's going to be in the equivalent of the smart contracts. That means what sort of data and what they expect you to do. That's the first thing. The second partnership we have start is also with basically the big five. They're not five anymore, but the big 6 or 7 consulting company, like EY, like PwC, like Capgemini, etc., Atos. So, and the reason is that that's more business strategy, is we want to remain lean and mean as long as we can to push the envelope, I would say, as far as possible before getting big and fat. And so that means all the pre-sales, that means all the consulting part and all the implementation part. We partner with these big guys who have big brand, who have, the trust of their customer, because we're still a small startup. So when you sign with BNP Paribas and you say, okay, I'm going to implement a solution in 3 countries in the next few months, well, you have to they have to believe you.
Yeah.
And they believe you better if you say, well, we partner with Capgemini on that contract.
Sure. Awesome. So let's talk about some of the products you have on the way. There's PikcioMe, Pixio Pro, Pixio Lab, and the wallet. So can you give me a little bit of information on each of those, who they're targeted towards, and how they'll be used? What I specifically kind of want to get into is what the user experience is going to be like using PikcioChain, because it's all well and good, to talk about kind of what we're trying to
Right.
solve and what it'll do, but the listener, I think, wants to know when they hold the application in their hand, how are they going to use it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Pixio Pro is the more B2B product line. So that's where many banks, for the moment, corporation or governments, actually in Bahrain, we're installing that. We will install it for the government. They're more infrastructure based. So it's the use of the PikcioChain to solve kind of internal supply chain issue. So basically moving data among silos, certifying these data, carrying the certification, monetizing that internally or externally with partners, and collecting the data while also certifying them. And I will come up with an example. But this is Pixio Pro. So it's literally that either consortium-based or kind of ecosystem-based permission-based chain, so the use of the PikcioChain. Mm-hmm. And it can be completely internal without even reaching the level of the interaction with the consumer. Now, then we have PiccioMe. And PiccioMe, that's a suite of wallets that we're developing. And you mentioned the token sale wallet, which we kind of brand the wallet for the moment. Mm-hmm. And we will have, during this few month or quarter, we will have several wallets like that. The e-traveler, I call that e-traveler. These are code names. These are not going to be the final names. E-traveler, the e-patient, so the e-banking, and the e-employee. Basically, a wallet for any kind of individual situation where you can find yourself facing the production or the collection of a lot of different kind of data, but more per vertical. The reason is that, and that's the PiccioMe approach, you can have one PiccioMe with all of these wallets, or you can choose to just pick one, because it's pretty overwhelming to have all of them. But that's our approach, more B2C. And then Pixio Labs is the opportunity for, it's an initiative, it's kind of an accelerator where I mentioned initially, we're trying to open a little bit the chain. Mm-hmm. So because we're not going to be able to cover everything, and we don't have the intention, we prefer to develop an ecosystem ourselves around the PiccioChain. So that's the opportunity for startups to meet some needs from a corporation that sent us a request, and then we put them together so they can use the chain and develop a specific application on it. And that program is supported by us. It's Neo is interested to support it as well, so we're discussing that. But it's mainly developed and supported by us, and for some of them we will invest some PKCs for bootstrapping their the initiative. That's basically the three main gateways to the PiccioChain for the moment.
Okay, cool. Now, with PiccioMe, you mentioned you've got all the different wallets available, or you can have an all-in-one. When would someone download that wallet and start using it? So would I go into a bank maybe that uses Pixio, and I'd be, I don't know, signing up to get a loan, and they'd say, download the PiccioMe app and put your data into there, and that's an easy way to share us. What would be the call for me to actually download that and install that on my phone and start using it?
Yeah, that's a very good point. There's two ways. Either you would call that invitation. That means your bank say, from now on, we're using Pixio as a platform for dealing with all your personal data and the privacy regulation and all that. So if you want to use that Pixio service, then in their application, because we come as a background, we're more called by API. So in their existing mobile application, by example, you will access your Pixio space, and on the Pixio space, you can control, access your data, control who can blah, blah, blah. And you have your Pixio, basically it's your Pixio wallet. So that Pixio wallet gives you a Pixio ID, and you will be able to, depending the scope of the ecosystem created by the bank, you will be able to use that Pixio ID with other partners in that ecosystem. So you don't have to repeat identification, etc., etc. That's one way to do it. The other way is more you got to know Pixio initiative on its own, and you want to do it from scratch on your own, and you will be able to do that either as a simple eKYC, we call that, which is your basic identity that you can then go to your bank and ask to have the certification of your various documents or stuff like that. Not just your bank. We provide around, how many now? I think it's a bit or more than that, 550 connect. We call that connectors. That means source of data that can certify or authenticate the documents based on which we certify the data. So it's kind of the sovereign identity part of it, but you will be able to use that in a ecosystem that we grow ourselves. Now we have a much more exciting, I think, initiative called the token sale wallet, where you will be able to do that process of identifying and certifying yourself once, and then use it to purchase token from several ICO coming up, and either existing ICO or already past ICO, where it's still a way to purchase to exchange or directly to the ICO issuer or the token issuer. The benefit for you is that you're only going to have to register once, because now every ICO will have to go to a pretty painful KYC AML process, etc. Yep. And it's like opening an account every single day to another bank. I mean, what a pain in the neck. So you don't want that, and nobody wants that except regulators, because they don't buy it. So they so they don't care. But so that's the service we will provide. That means on one hand, as an individual customer experience, you just press the button. We'll have a list of all the ICOs who enroll, and then you can go straight away. And for the ICO issuers, you will have access to a pool of already. First of all, you're not going to have to build up all these process, which is pretty annoying and painful and actually costly. And you will have access, a snowballing effect. You will have access already to a lot of certified individuals that we have, either through banking relationships or because they build up their own certification.
Yeah, cool. I think that's a fun way to get people into the PikcioChain ecosystem as well, providing a service like that. So I think that will work really well. So let's discuss the PKC token utility. You've described it in your white paper as the lifeblood of the PikcioChain ecosystem. And I also read that you will regularly be buying tokens back off the exchanges to sell to your enterprise clients at a markup to make things easier for them, so they don't have to go and worry about getting on Binance or whatever. Right. But when would someone use the PKC token? What functionalities require them to make a transaction in PKC?
So for the company, so for the business to business, so companies who wants to purchase a certificate, not the data themselves, because the data belongs to you, and I don't think we'll go to monetization of the data themselves that way. I'll come back to that. But the certificate provided by a bank or by any kind of credential provider on a specific type of data, then they will have to use PKCs. So the clearinghouse that we provide on each of the chain that is run by PKC. So if the bank issue a KYC and certify a KYC about you, that means give you a Pixio identity, certified Pixio identity, and it's used by a retailer, by example. That retailer will compensate the bank X amount of PKCs. That's that to the bank to decide, and that's we clearing. We seal that transaction to the chain. That's we mine that transaction, so to speak, on the chain. Mm-hmm. That's business to business. Now, and that's there's a lot of flow, as we know, between business and business purchasing or trying to use data and the certificate regarding these data. The data, it's always you transferring the data because you're the owner of the data. Or at least you give your permission every single time.
Yep.
Now, as an individual, as I said, you will be able to build your own wallet, not the wallet itself, the content of a digital ID. Here we go.
Yep.
And that means you will need to not just declare data, but also get them certified. And for that, you will need tokens, because not everybody is going to do that freely or for free. And so we will give you, at the beginning, a few of the tokens. That's part of our bootstrapping effort. But after that, you will have to use tokens. I'll give you an example. We're discussing with RMV in the US. RMV is the registered mobile vehicle. So they're the one delivering your license, basically. And without a license in the US, you're nobody. There's no real ID or passport for most of the people, but the driver license is very important. And you have to renew it every now and then.
Yep.
Basically, you have to go there. So they take your picture, they verify that you still can see something or whatever. So, and they charge you. And what we're proposing, and that's a very, very important document for any kind of process in the US. Any you ask for anything. There's a lot of fraud as well, as you can imagine, especially among the students, etc. So we propose to the RMV to charge people either a few PKC or $5, let's put it that way, in addition to when they come to renew, so they have their driver license saved and certified on the PikcioChain in their Piccio wallet. In that case, as an individual, you will need to use to buy some PKCs, or you already have them, and pay the RMV. That's where that's the kind of certification you probably will be ready to spend $5 for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Now, when people talk about banks and cryptocurrency in the same breath, it's normally, with a bit of friction. But, you were talking there about...
There's definitely, that's where you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's where even our own clients, believe it or not, when we say, no, we do an ICO, etc., and we're going to have some proceed from that, could we send that to our bank account? They were scared. I said, no. And then we say, okay, fine, we'll find another way. But now, since you're going to have to use PKCs, if you use our system at one point, not immediately, but at one point, why don't you purchase some in advance and you get even a premium? No, we don't. It's not actually. They didn't say no. They just say, well, yes, but where do we put that in our currency system?
Yeah.
We have no clue where we put that. So basically, that went down the drain. That's why we're saying that's fine. You're going to have to purchase from us, but because it's a limited inventory, we'll buy that from the market and you'll pay a premium. And that's too bad for you, but good for everybody who has tokens, but that's too bad for you. And that's fine, for them, that's fine, as long, because they just don't know. You cannot imagine for a moment having BNP opening an account at Kraken. I mean, that will be done. That doesn't exist.
Yeah. Are there going to be any? Are there any fiat off ramps in the works for any of those customers who want to go back from PKC into cash?
Where they would be able to get cash back when they offer PKCs.
Yeah, I mean when they accept PKC for doing any sort of authentication of data and so on and so forth. Is there any way for them to get that back into fiat?
Yes, we're working on that. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Sweet. So roadmap-wise, when do you expect the bulk of this to be up and running?
Well, the PikcioChain itself is running. The installation at BNP and some other clients now are working as well. So that's the infrastructure. That's all the Piccio Pro, when they call the Piccio Pro smart contracts through APIs into their wallet. So that exists and it's up and running. The thing that we're working on now, and that's going to be released by end of June, is the token sales wallet that I was mentioning to you earlier. That's the one that's going to be a real end user with a pure community base purpose, which is the crypto and ICOs or ITO, we should say now, community, not really involving banks or whatever. And that's going to be a release in yes, end of June.
Cool. Sounds great. And your token sale, it's actually ongoing at the moment. You've done this over a period of time. So when does that end, and how should one go about getting involved if they're interested?
Oh, I hope they will, because it's the last 10 days. We ending at the end of this month.
Okay.
So that's going to be the end of the quad sale. And they should go on PikcioChain.com and go for it.
Sweet. And then if anyone wants to join your community, do you have a Twitter or Reddit? Where should they go to stay connected?
We have a pretty decent community on Telegram and Twitter. We not much on. There's a little bit of on Reddit as well, but I would say the main one, at least to start, would be the Telegram one. Definitely.
Okay, and the links to all those social accounts are going to be on PikcioChain.com. Cool. Sweet.
Absolutely.
All right, Didier, thank you so much for your time, taking the time to talk to us while you're on your travels. We're glad to have PikcioChain in the Neo ecosystem, and I wish you all the best with the remainder of the token sale and the launch of your product, mate.
Yeah, regarding the Neo community, we are actually working with Neo to have the whole gang coming in Paris and either Zurich or Zug, we don't know yet, end of April. So there's going to be some announcement regarding that, but Hongfei, Li Jun, and the whole gang will come for meetups in Paris, and so we'll communicate on that pretty soon. We're finalizing the whole deals. That's going to be exciting.
Sounds great. All right, mate. Thanks for your time, and all
right,
we'll see maybe in Paris.
Excellent. Thank you, Dean.
All right, thanks, mate.
Take care. Bye.